until you care about them, then they'll care. And so I think that's kind of how I wanted to theme the wrap up episode. It's kind of just like what is your actual job or your role or your goal as mom and dad, and then how do you kind of fulfill that when we're talking about interacting with your kid. So that's kind of the tee up for the episode. Do you have anything you want to start with before I start getting into the meat,
Well,
or what do you think?
I was gonna throw this in somewhere, but it keeps coming in here. So it really funny. So like one of the first things I want to say about this thing is understanding to keep it fun, because when if your child ends up being a good enough hockey player to get their school paid for or to play major junior hockey or USHL or whatever it is, then it becomes fun, but in a different way. It becomes more job like. So, and that's true, and I think everyone could sort of understand that. But what's interesting, and we've conversation with so many of the guys that I train, is once you get to the National Hockey League level, it's like it's a job. It's a job. So interesting enough, over the last month or so, because playoffs have ended and guys get called up to the American League or to NHL teams and stuff. And just three conversations like bang, like that. And I had one yesterday with actually a member, great guy, by the way, who his son got called up. Yeah, no, I'm not going to say the team, but so I got three different teams. They got called up at the end of the year. So I asked, how's the boys doing? So every one of them to a T said they're just tired. They don't want to go up there and hang out in a hotel for a week or two or three or whatever the unknown length that team's going to be in the playoffs. They're not doing that much. They're doing some training. They're doing some practicing. They're living in a hotel. It's a long day. They just want to come home and relax. And that was yesterday. He goes, he says he's tired. He just wants to go spend a couple weeks at home. I go, yeah, I get it. He goes, but someone's paying your bills now. You have to do what they say. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's a job now. And, if you would have asked those same people a year or two or three ago before they were drafted or signed, that at the end of the year, you're going to go up to the Philadelphia Flyers for the next 3 weeks, what do you think the answer? What do you think it would have been? They would have been depressed or happy?
Oh, dream come true, man.
Dream come true. Yeah,
Yeah.
bring it on, man.
Yeah.
But they're tired and they realize, okay, it's not my time yet, and I'm just here putting in my time, and maybe it's the wrong attitude, right? It could be. Just drop something there, but it's just it's a real attitude. So they got to go up there instead of, and maybe it gets away in their training, maybe it doesn't, maybe it helps their development, maybe it doesn't, but they should got to learn the systems or the culture of the business. And the bottom line is to this is that at some point, if you're a really good player, um, it's gonna be a job, just like any other job, man. Like no, not like any other job, but like any other job. There's days where it's just like, come on, man. Like it's every day. I got to work out every day. I got to stretch it out every day. I got to listen to this guy every day. I got to do this, and that's what it is. So the fun piece is like really important when you're growing up, right? Like, and if you even just take like the junior experience, as opposed to being a pro. What I mean by junior experience, not our program, but the junior experience being like, let's say you play in the Canadian Hockey League, okay? That's why it's the best time of your life. Because not that wasn't a really good answer. That's not the reason it's the best time of your life is because for the most part, every guy on the team is away from home, right? They're playing in a city, and it's under pressure, and it's a whole different environment. But they don't have wife and kids and dogs and responsibilities to take care of. They just have to play hockey and do a little bit of school, right? So after practice or on days off, who gets together is the boys, and they go play pool or they do things together. Might be watching a movie, might be just hanging out, and they're being idiots together. But there's no responsibilities, and they're actually not. They're getting paid in education. They're getting paid in different ways, but they're in it together, and you spend 3-4 years together for the most part, and it's friends for life. Whereas when you get to the National Hockey League or pro hockey, all of a sudden you're sitting in the same room, and who's going out for lunch today? It's like, 5 of them have a wife and kids and all those responsibilities. And it's like the fun is not the same as it used to be. So anyways, to get back to that, that's why I think it's really important that when parents are going through this process is to make sure, yes, you're doing the hard work, you're doing the principles of sport and all that stuff. But the most important thing to me is to keep it fun, because if you play this long enough and are good enough, that just pure joy is gone. So a parent's role in this, you can make this a lot more enjoyable, or you can make it somewhat miserable.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I would talk about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a really good point because what everyone says when they stop playing hockey, the thing they miss most, it's never the hockey. It's never the practices or the travel or this game or whatever. What they remember sometimes are those highlight moments of hockey, but the things that guys remember most is the hangout. It's the dressing room. It's the extracurriculars outside of the actual gameplay and the training, you know? And when you move up a level, a lot of that is now gone because, like you're saying, you have the captain of your team isn't 20. The captain of your team is Patrice Bergeron, who has a family and has places to be and is mature and is a
Yeah.
grown up.
And he might want to hang out with his financial advisor or his business partner
Yeah.
somewhere more than the guy on the
Yeah.
team, maybe,
Or his kid,
or his kid.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a whole different setup where it's like you introduce that element of responsibility now, where it's not just you're free to be. It's like that when you go to university too, right? You can go out and and party and do whatever because you have no real responsibility. You just get to delay it for the 4 years that you're in school or the 4 years that you're in junior. And then, I was having a conversation with one of our guys yesterday who's coming out of junior now, and he's kind of just like, man, it's just like such a weird time because I'm trying to figure out like what the next move is. And it's like, yeah, that's real life now. It's not just junior with your buddies anymore. It's like you need to figure out what you're going to do with your life. It's not the same. You think it's going to last forever and then it's over like that. So it's important. That's an important thing to point out because you get these kids that finish, they didn't think twice about it, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, wow, this is actually a job. It's not just I get to have fun and play a game. And that's what a lot of people don't see or understand or put in perspective, especially as sports fans or people that just watch the game. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so the fun part, like keeping it fun, like I'm talking to the parents more. Like obviously for the kids, keep it fun, and like you said, you have that window of opportunity to give it everything you got to try to make it somewhere. And don't forget, like as much fun as you can have, you have to keep the, if you're serious about it, to keep the effort level and do your due diligence on doing everything the best that you can, staying in shape, eating right, and you know it's those days that you take off where now you look back, like for that guy you're talking, it's like, oh, maybe those days I took off, or maybe that game that I was kind of, those games that I kind of month whatever where I was like taking it for granted, I'd like to have that back, right? So because it goes by fast, and no matter how much how many times you tell players that it goes by real quick, it goes by real quick, and then when it's done, it's done. But anyway.